So hey everyone, welcome again to today's webinar on shoppable e-commerce and how to increase your sales from digital marketing. I am talking to dozens of founders every day, and one thing that's coming up is we built up this e-commerce engine, we started doing a lot of online marketing, and then as consumers are shifting back into retail, we're not really sure how to balance our digital marketing presence and spend when shoppers might be purchasing us in store and not through our own e-commerce site. How do we track if it's effective or not? How do we actually make sure that that spend is helping to push our business forward? I know one thing that comes up a lot is that a lot of those kind of ads and things, if they're not buying on your website, it's hard to really know where they're going to buy from there and make it easy for customers to buy in their preferred stores, to make it easier for them. So what I want to do is invite on Louis Condon with Pear Commerce because they have been really pioneering this way of thinking about how do you make all your digital marketing shoppable so that you can leverage that to get customers closer to that point of purchase. Louis, welcome on to the webinar today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again. I'm excited to be back.
I know you're a multiple webinar and podcast guest, which is super exciting. For our listeners as well, I'd love for you to just give like a quick 30-second intro on you and the kind of work that you do, and then we'll kind of jump into the presentation.
Yeah, I come here. I don't have a CPG, kind of traditional CPG background or retail or even e-commerce. I'm more kind of a startup guy. So attorney by training, but have spent my career kind of across legal growth and ops at early stage companies. And so I've done ed tech, kind of some accelerator space, working with some e-commerce companies, but also SaaS and marketplace and all of that. Going to insure tech before joining Pear Commerce as the first hire. And, for that was about 3.5 years ago almost, and have thought kind of pretty consistently since then, almost nonstop about this retail e-commerce world. And so at Pear, I can get into a little bit of what we do. We're not going to talk about it a lot, but it is in this retail e-commerce space. So, what's different from retail than D2C or pure play like Amazon is you don't necessarily know inventory or where you're available on shelves or what happens when people bridge over to get performance data and build audiences and all of these sorts of things. And that's the ultimate mission that we're trying to bridge is kind of give those tools, the shoppable tools and the e-commerce tools to the retail channel.
Absolutely love that. Awesome. Let's jump into the presentation today.
All right, I got a deck. Bear with me. I'm going to share my screen and then we will go from there. And I'm going to present.
Awesome. Everything looks good.
Okay, cool. I got two monitors, and so I'm gonna keep awkwardly looking over here to see if there's any signals to shut up or go in a different direction, and I'll keep an eye on the chat as well. Jordan, jump in with questions as you have it, your own or anyone that's asking questions, and I'll try to be mindful about not rambling too much and answering some questions here. But
Perfect. Yeah,
um,
one thing I'll remind our audience as well is if you have any questions, feel free to drop those into the chat throughout the conversation on anything that Louis is talking about, and then I can ask that to him directly.
awesome.
All right, Louis, take it from here.
Thank you. Thank you. So, dusting off, late 2000s presentation technology with a Prezi here, and walking through this shoppable e-commerce at retail, path and journey. As we think about the world, it's relatively new, really since the pandemic, because prior to that, retailers barely knew it was on their own shelf. But once every grocery or e-commerce experience started from an e-commerce experience, like they just needed to get that better. And so Instacart requires knowing what's on shelf. Target's curbside pickup, drive up requires knowing what's on shelf. And so what we're seeing is this, and even the term I'm seeing it more and more, phygital world, right? Of this blend, people will talk at conferences that we go to of consumers don't see a funnel, right? They're not working through an ad of awareness, consideration, and purchase. They go online and research what cool products they are, maybe add to cart for an in-store pickup, or some of it's in-store and drive up, and then they go inside for their produce. It's this world that is all mixing together of people just want an omni-channel world and want to buy where it makes sense to. And as we think of this world and where it's going, a big piece is shoppability. And so we'll spend some time talking about what that means, talking through some examples. This is what we do, is building a lot of shoppable tools, but there's a ton that brands can do without any vendor involved. And so that's where we'll focus a lot of time on. But the fun thing is that's part one, right? So as we look at this great design here, the green piece is just building shoppability, and you could stop there, right? Just building the path to purchase, there's value for, and maybe even expectations from customers in this omni-channel world. But where we get really excited as a company are the cascading benefits of what comes after that, after you have that shoppability. Because we built the path from brand.com to retail.com. When you build that path, you know what route people take, right? Did you stop under the tree? Did you pass the gate? Did you turn around? And then when you know that, you can also tell Facebook or Snap or TikTok or any ad platform which route they're taking as well. And so you can start building audiences and retarget and do fun stuff like that. And so we'll talk about some of those cascading benefits, kind of elements of building that up, and even some pretty tactical stuff of how to do that, again, without any vendor involvement, and then tying it all together in kind of the strategy piece. Cool. And so the company Pear, what we're premised on, what all of retail e-commerce is two evolving premises. The first one, as I think you said it already, but like omni-channel means being where your shoppers want to buy, and sometimes that means retail, right? I don't want to buy a 36 pack of the soda for the new flavor. I want to go try it in retail. Or maybe I just like going to retail because it's a nice walk and I get to do it every day. Or maybe I like buying online for curbside because I have a family and I'm efficient. Whatever it is, omni-channel means being where your shoppers want to buy. And if you believe that, then it makes sense to invest in sending shoppers to retail.com, to walmart.com, to Target for the mass, to Costco, to Sam's Club, even Hillary, who's from Pear, is going to laugh, Outpost. I always talk about Outpost. It's a 4-store co-op only in Milwaukee. No one else has ever heard of it, but it's on Instacart, and it's where my wife and I have our shopper loyalty. And so is it available there? It makes sense to send me to Outpost and build that path to purchase. So, when we think across media dollars, customer attention, and like emails and like free social and things like that, website real estate, this investment is starting to make more and more sense. All leading up to what can be, our vision of the company is giving brands the tools essentially to run retail marketing like a D2C runs a digitally native brand runs their D2C. And that means for us strategically sending shoppers to retail e-com experiences. So again, walmart.com, target.com, where I can buy, drive up, or curbside, or ship to store, or pick up in store, any of those experiences, strategically sending them for both the discovery and the purchase processes. While you're doing that, you've built that shoppability piece, you are building digital audiences. So across every ad platform, Facebook and Snap and TikTok and Yahoo and Trade Desk and Klaviyo and anything that's building audiences, we're building this audience of the shoppers who are engaging with your digital media, most broadly defined term of media, to find and buy your specific products at retail specifically. And there's a lot of benefit in that. And then leveraging the data that we see, the shopper behavior, like do they stop under the tree or not, to make better, human decisions for better marketing campaigns. And so as we've evolved, and Jordan, it's been fun, like reflecting on every time we do this, like reflecting on the past, what we've talked about, because the market has changed, the industries have changed. Of course, Pear Commerce has changed, and our capabilities and tools and how we think about this evolving world. But these three things have probably always remained the same, right? Like, how does a company build this capability? And this is what we'll talk about a lot, but it is step one, make everything shoppable. So I've said this word a lot, shoppable, shoppability. We're going to talk about what that means and show a bunch of examples, but it's building those paths to purchase, like step one. Once you build that path to purchase, then we can start moving to step two of seeing what happens and building these audiences. Like you build the path, then you need enough people, you need enough traffic to go through. That can be organic over a 10-month period of time, or you can do a ton of paid to do it in a 1-month period of time to get a statistically significant sample size. But you're learning the shopper behavior. Do people really like Outpost in Milwaukee for the ice cream, or is Aldi really strong in the Midwest over a Walmart or a Target, or how do Walmart and Target, perform, or how does TikTok and Meta perform? Like you get to start learning some of these insights, all the while you're building audiences, right? Anyone who's looking at a retailer list, that's a top of funnel retail e-com audience. Anyone who clicks any retail button, like engages with that path to purchase. And again, I'll show you examples, so bear with me for one more second, is a middle of funnel audience. And Pear, we did have partnerships to get bottom of funnel audiences, but we don't even need to get there. But you're building this audience based on the traffic that's going through. And once you have that, now we've got the shoppability tool set. Now we've got the audience tool set. We've got the insights tool set. Now we can use all of that for step 3, which is in the crawl, walk, run. We're running. We are strategically increasing share of wallet at retail by running full funnel e-com strategy. And for us, that share of wallet, full funnel, it means awareness, trial, repeat purchase, and sales velocity, right? They got to know about you, try you, habitually buy you, and then retailer relationships and sell stories are super important. And so there's things that you should do to make sure that those are successful from a marketing perspective.
So, Louis, here's one thing that I often hear, right? Brands who are getting started, they're putting a lot of their investment into marketing to like digital marketing and driving back to their e-commerce store because that's where they typically have a pretty high margin, especially for lighter products. I also, and so they're like, I guess on one side, how do I, if I'm leveraging some of these tools to drive into my other retailers, is that going to decrease my own margin in the process?
It's a great question. Maybe, right? It depends is a terrible answer. But as I think of Rishi Tea as an example that, local Milwaukee company really stands out as like stark differences for retail ecom. Because ultimately, Jordan, the decision in my mind is it's a balancing decision, right? It's D2C, you own it. There's different margins and pros and cons. Amazon, pure play, same type of thing. And typically that was the balance. But now retail is another piece. And it's this investment. You only have a certain amount of media dollars. You only have a certain amount of customer attention and a certain amount of website real estate. So you got to think for your business and your priorities what makes sense. I brought up Rishi tea because, premium loose leaf tea, very high margins, very easy to ship, big quantities of it. They don't want anyone to buy from retail for the product. Why would they? They're like, don't go anywhere. Come from us. Become a subscriber. Do all of that. We're willing to pay more, and even like maybe have you come away if we can if we're confident we can bring you back because of the margins there. But then they spun up a company called Sparkling Botanicals. It's sparkling tea in cans. And now that whole business model is fundamentally different, right? Now it relies on fulfillment for beverages, a gigantic pain in the butt for the kids listening, and 12 packs at a time, $50 minimum shipping orders, like these things that add friction to that consumer process where I don't know the specifics of like beverage business and margins, but there's a point where it's like, let me just send you a truckload, Walmart or Aldi or Outpost, and let's sell that way. And there's a lot of benefits to doing that, obviously. And so it's this balance of like what's important over a period of time. We have our annual meeting with Target in 4 months. What can we do from a digital marketing perspective to increase that? Or, we're launching in a new region, right? California is now open up to us for these 3 different retailers. Like, what can we do to focus efforts there? Because retail is really important there. And you just have to balance that out. And yeah, our whole thing is we just want to give this is maybe making your lives more complicated, but another tool in the toolbox to increase overall share of wallet across all channels, not just retail.
Yeah, I think too, right? Like there's two things. I think if you're selling refrigerated, frozen, or beverages or anything that's heavy, then this makes a lot of sense because a lot of brands lose money selling on their own D2C. So it makes sense to support the retail partners and use a tool like this to drive those velocities in store. And then also, as you mentioned, doing things to support those retailers of like moving products, staying on shelf, making sure you're growing the awareness and giving your customers the best options of where they want to shop. Because if you can you mentioned this before, removing that friction for customers, then they're more likely to buy your product more often.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Similar to how some brands that rely on retail will do D2C, even if it's a loss leader to get, personal, PII, first party data or insights. D2C heavy companies should probably invest like a similar amount on the retail side because that's where trial happens, right? People are gonna the new flavor of Poppy. I'm gonna go try a single can, even if it's $3 versus buying $42 as for 12. Because what if I don't like it? And now we send folks send them to retail, small amount of the overall strategy, but important. Build an audience of your retail shoppers and retarget them with an ad to become a D2C subscriber. Like that's where this omni-channel piece also gets interesting for the brand side. Not only be where you want to buy, but like start to merge based on your strategy and where you want to direct people.
Awesome. I love it. Cool. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So I'm time check. We got 40 minutes left. I'm a little behind. Sorry, Jordan. I'm gonna go fast for examples and things like that. But that was, I think, important and worth spending a little bit of time as we just set the foundation. But let's focus on shoppability. Like, what is it? I've talked about it a lot. Shoppable at retail, it means building digital paths to purchase across all of your media for your shoppers to find and buy your products online at retail. That's a formal definition. Breaking it out a little bit, digital paths to purchase, for us, that's on-site, brand.com, store locator, PDPs, recipes, even links and blogs, things like that. As well as offsite. You can direct your ads to a landing page or have a shoppable ad or really anything. It's any digital path to purchase to build that connection from brand media or brand.com to retail.com across all your media. And again, I don't come from this background, so it took me a while to figure out what media is. To me, it's like every touch point from a brand to a consumer almost, right? It can be a billboard, but it's also, yeah, your store locator. It's your influencers, of course, your paid ads, but also your free organic posts, your LinkedIn bio, your emails, your SMS, like all of these touch points with your customers. We can now build digital paths to purchase to retail, when it makes sense. And it's not just to buy, it's to find too. Like we know that, Jordan, I think you had a great description of this, of like the examples of how people will be on their couch looking at something, add it to cart, and then go pick up in store. Like it's that blend to both find and buy. And then, of course, we're kind of specifically talking about retail, giving some of the unique challenges there. The examples that we'll talk about, these are the ones I thought are worth calling out, or mostly that we can do for free without any additional vendor like Pear Commerce. There's a couple more, and there's some derivatives and nuances and things like that, but this will be a good foundation. And I do want to call out like all of these. Ultimately, when I go through these, we have pair examples here, which have, pulling from retailers with daily inventory scanning and dynamic shoppability based on where I'm at and all of those things, which is great. But to simplify it, we can all make a button, right, that says buy at Walmart here. And we can make that button, we can put it on our PDP, and we can track where it came from and where it's going. And when we do that, we can go to a search page that looks something like this, right? And you can build this out on Walmart.com or your important retailers. But either way, I'm going here. I lose insight into what happens. I don't know which product they're clicking or whatnot, but I still know that someone saw a Walmart button and that they clicked on a Walmart button. And so that's top and middle of funnel. And so that's how we're looking at examples of what we do, which is built on tech that took 2 years to build. But let's not forget, like we can just do hard-coded links, and that all of these benefits that we'll talk about insights and pixel firing and ad integration is all still relevant here. Except for this one, sorry, it just felt too important to not talk about is the store locator. So typically you're going to need the homegrown solution just kind of pins on a map. But you could even say we're at these retailers. You'll see this a lot in like a list of the top 6 logos of retailers. We can make those hyperlinked to store locators. We can append UTMs on top of it, and we can install and fire a pixel when someone clicks on one of those buttons. Like you can still do all of these sorts of things, but the store locator pins on a map, product to store mapping. This specific Whole Foods has these specific 41 products, and then it's this add to cart, right? That is that digital. That's the shoppability path to purchase. I click on add to cart at Target. It's going to take me to the Siete Mexican wedding cookies at the Target that's local to me, the PDP, or in some instances with retailers, even add the item directly to cart. And we can do a similar type of experience on a PDP. So this is, again, like hyperlinks or even widgets on PDPs or recipes or any other brand.com page that looks like this. Again, this is the formal thing. But if you have national distribution at Walmart or even if just like Target is your most important thing, but you're only in half the country, like putting a Target button there is still very feasible, right? Amazon for the same thing. And so that's on any page. PDPs is where we see it the most, but really it could go anywhere. I think recipes is probably the next best place. There's also a world of landing pages, directing. This is usually media directing to a page. It doesn't live on brand.com. It doesn't get the same level of design and care and attention and SEO and all those things. It can be more quickly spun up with a specific intention to drive to retail. And so we see this for really specific targeted campaigns, right? We're launching at, the call to action is about Walmart. Maybe the image is find us at Walmart, and you just have a Walmart button, for example. That's a very easy one. Or you could do Instacart, Amazon, and Walmart and Target, whatever your distribution is, whatever is important, quickly spun up media destination, you can kill it and create it very easily. But it's this level of kind of shoppability there. And shoppable ads. This is where we're getting excited. This is relatively new to the trend. I don't think we've talked about shoppable ads before on Food Bevy. We've got a product ourselves, but this is a homegrown one that we came across and just love. It's a catalog type of ad on Instagram, Amazon, Walmart, Instacart, just going to, I think these go to the search pages for the Honey Stinger brand. Great work here. I love it. Again, there's tools to make it dynamic and based on inventory and locality and all those things. But this is I think a brilliant solution to build that shoppable experience. And so this is probably a good place to pause, but just to wrap it up, like step one, making everything shoppable, on-site, off-site, media, ads, let's think link in bio, emails, SMS, customer service responses, like anything that's clickable can now be shoppable to retail. And so when it makes sense, step one, make everything shoppable.
No, I think that's awesome. And just seeing some of those examples. And right, I think it's that idea of reaching customers and linking back to like where they know they can purchase, which is key.
We're just seeing it feels like it's becoming more and more table stakes. Like, yeah, I have a store locator. You're telling me it's at Target. Let me go. Like, let me add it to my cart, please. And again, I think that's the green piece is this shoppability. What we get most excited as a company is what we can do with that shoppability. When you control the path, understanding the route people take, and then telling, the Facebooks of the world what routes people are taking has a lot of cascading benefits. So specifically around the audiences, again, the specific group that are engaging with your digital media and your shoppable experiences to find and buy your products specifically, retail specific, like super potent audience. And we could do top, middle, and bottom of funnel. And step two, you're learning shopper behavior and leveraging you're learning shopper behavior, which retailers and geos and products and are getting the most click-throughs and what ad platforms are driving the best results and copy and creative and all of those sorts of things. Like where do they come from? Where are they going? All of that to just give you the ability to make better decisions. And this is where we're going to get a little technical, and I'm not a technical person, and I'm like cognizant I'm on a group of a call with groups of marketers. So this is super dumbed down, and bear with me and correct me where I'm wrong here. But as we look at kind of the core elements of this step two is the tracking the data for insights and the integration with ad platforms. And from a technical perspective, how does that work? How do I do this myself? You talk about hard coding links. I can hyperlink something, but like then what? There's two pieces. It's UTMs and it's pixels. And so UTM has some great acronym. I forget what it actually is. Nobody barely knows what it is, but what the acronym is. But a UTM, for all intents and purposes, how I view it, it's a data field that gets passed through a URL string. I think the best example I see of this is like, Business Insider's newsletter or like link on what, clickbait. Clickbait is probably the best thing. And I get over there and you see the URL is like 800 characters long. And it's the core piece, which is just the article. And like, that's what you send to your friends if you want to share something. And then there's the 800 characters that is like, random letters and numbers and things like that. But what they're doing is they're tracking, which email did you select? What email in the sequence was it? Or if it's on, an app platform, which copy was it? Did you select the first one or the third one or the bottom, the nav bar at the bottom, or like where did you come from? What had happened? Like they're just tracking all these things so they can start to understand what's better or worse. Because now I can look at how does TikTok perform against Meta to oversimplify it. And so an example in the Pear instance, like this is a landing page. We would give this link, create and give this link to a brand. You can create it yourself. What this is saying is the source was DraftKings. They had a collaborative campaign with DraftKings. It was across different platforms, even across different sports and all of this. It was like, a big deal. But they had multiple. They had, DraftKings. They probably had one with FanDuel, but then they had one with, I don't know, The Rock and WWE or what I'm pulling at straws here, but they had all of these sorts of different campaigns here that they wanted to track and be able to see how does DraftKings perform against, The Rock's campaign. Within DraftKings, they did social and display and influencer and all sorts of different things. And so they wanted to track within that, how did it work? And as I said, DraftKings, it was, football season and March Madness. I don't think football's in March. Yeah, I'm betraying some serious flaws in my cultural knowledge here. Good thing it's being recorded. But either way, March Madness, there are different things. And so how does the March Madness one compare against the other campaign? And now we're able to filter and segment all of this data to start really understanding in an apples to apples comparison, like the destination's the same, the experience is the same, click-through rate should be an apples to apples comparison across display for the DraftKings March Madness campaign versus social. The important thing here, it's technically light to do. You can just kind of program it into Facebook or whatever. The important thing here is the architecture and like really having a plan of what are you tracking, why are you tracking it, which UTM does it get tied to, and things like that. All right, I'm going to pause for half a second on UTMs and see if anything comes up in the chat. We'll do pixels, then we'll take another pause because this is the technical pieces.
Yeah, no, like I mean, one thing that we do with UTMs for Joyful Co as well is we're testing a variety of paid media right now. And so we'll have newsletter advertisements tagged with like the sort that's a newsletter, which specific one, and the campaign that we're running with them so we can track it across different holidays. And then we'll also have that for our paid Google campaigns and our paid Meta campaigns so that we can then understand what those conversions and traffic look like from each. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's more sophisticated than, multi-billion dollar brands that we talk to who are like shaking them, like use UTMs, please.
Yeah.
But no, that's exactly it. That's amazing. The second, I guess, third building block is I think of step 1, 2, and 3, it is build shoppability, get insights, retarget audiences kind of. And so there's a shoppable tool in the tool belt. There's the UTM to get the insights. And then the third one is these pixels, and that's to build the audiences and run optimized campaigns. In the path analogy, shoppability is building the path. Us knowing what route they took is the insights, but then telling Facebook what route they took is this pixels. And so the technical term, as I've heard it described by people smarter and more technical than me, is like firing that pixel event back to the ad platform. And it's across all ad platforms, right? You're going to have a pixel on Meta, a pixel on Snap, on Trade Desk, on Klaviyo, on Yahoo, on any of these ad platforms that you're running on. You're going to have a separate pixel, and it's just going to be a way to kind of receive the info and track that shopper behavior. These ad platforms do it so they can make more money, right? But it's by having better ads, right? They want to serve the ad to people that are going to engage with it in the way you want them to engage with it. And so this is where we start talking about top and middle and bottom of funnel. If you want awareness, you just want as many people to go to your store locator as possible, right? We've got a new product. We want people to, awareness, not only know like that it exists, but also where is it available for purchase now? And that is get in front of as many eyeballs as possible. But if you're sending to, let's say a landing page and you want people to click through, you have a down funnel campaign, you can tell Facebook that too. Hey, like I want people to click this button and I'm going to pay you every time someone clicks this button, not just views the ad. And Facebook goes like, aye, we're going to take everything we know, which is a scary amount about everything because we have pixels installed on almost every single website across the internet and we're tracking you doing everything that you do. Yeah, terrifying stuff. But this allows us to identify like what products you're likely to select or what pack sizes you're likely to select or retailers you're likely to go to because we know this about you. And now we're able to analyze what we know about you and what everyone else that is actually taking this action. And we can do pretty interesting things with that. We can serve the ad better. We can find people that look like that. We can retarget that same group of people with ads to achieve the results that you want. Um, and so how do you make it? Again, it's within every ad platform. You go in, it's a pretty standard process throughout each one of those. You create the pixel. Our recommendation, call it retail e-com shoppers. It's going to be a smaller audience, but super potent. And so you're going to want to be able to isolate it. And there's different events that you can take, like, clicking a retailer button is a core action, seeing a retailer list is a core action, and you can figure out what the other core actions are that you want to track and build audiences around. But then when you fire the pixel event, when these certain core actions happen, two great things come as a result that for us unlocks strategy. It's building audiences and it's running optimized campaigns. And so audiences, these are the people that took this action and you can retarget them. So that's when I go to allbirds.com and then I go to, yahoo.com and there's a banner ad for Allbirds, like first thing that I see. That's retargeting me to try to convince me to make that purchase and work me down the funnel. And you can also use these audiences to build lookalikes, right? And all these people, they all clicked a button. This group of people looks a lot like them based on what we know about their propensity to take certain actions. And so, now you can target them and then retarget them and then build more lookalikes. And it's this kind of flywheel of people that are engaging with you for retail e-commerce.
And I think one thing to note here, right, when like most of the standard pixels when you install them is tracking things like page views, time on site, add to carts on your own e-commerce site, and then purchases and cart abandonments on your own e-commerce site. And what you're saying is adding a pixel that's specifically tracking the retail e-commerce actions, like viewing the store locator pages or clicking on a button going to Amazon or to Walmart or going to Target, which the base pixel isn't really looking at, but you can then track people who are like looking at those indicators of shopping on other sites or looking for buying in the store.
Exactly. Exactly. Like for us, it's really, if I were to boil it down, it would be that, mid-funnel clicking a retailer button is the one thing that matters, right? It's the people that have indicated interest for a specific product, for a specific retailer. They want to bridge over. They might not purchase, they're going to bridge over, they're going to add the cart, they're going to forget, whatever's going to happen. But that's like the most potent piece for sure. The second thing that firing pixels is going to do is be able to run optimized campaigns. And so this is, automatic improvement. We've got a case study later, but this is just saying, hey, yeah, we want as many retailer clicks as possible. And so Facebook is going to say, okay, you're going to pay us on that. And we're just going to make the campaign and we're going to optimize the campaign for that specific action, which means we're going to serve it to the people that are likely to click a retailer and go through all of the steps to do that, which can just automatically improve the effectiveness of your campaign. But what happens now is we've got this audience of this mid-funnel, and now we can optimize on that mid-funnel. And so instead of being stuck in awareness of like, hey, like, we're at the store locator, we've added the shoppability, and we've just like moved down one full step in a 3-step funnel, which is huge for strategy. And so that's step 2 is building, getting the UTM structure, getting the pixels set up, install it on the experiences, and just start learning and seeing what happens to eventually we start increasing share of wallet. So we're getting to chapter 3. I got about 10 minutes left, and then we'll have about 15 for Q&A, if that works.
Cool. That was good.
And I can stop whenever. I guess this is, kind of tying it together in different words of saying the same thing, but ultimately when all of this is together, the strategy, we've got really smooth shoppable experiences to retailers that matter. We're getting in-campaign performance data, we're testing, we're improving our ROAS just by access to these insights while we're building audiences, running optimized campaigns to run the next seamlessly shoppable experience, using the insights from last time to make that one better, getting more insights, getting more audiences and things like that. All right, let's just like put it all together. Case studies, what this looks like. We'll break out actionable insights, we'll break out audiences, and we'll break out optimizations as kind of the 3 core pieces. I admit I cheated on this. I think we're learning retail e-com is a newer space and people are still thinking about it and it takes time to evolve and to develop it into strategies. And so I cherry pick some of my best stories across all of these different things. I put it under the umbrella brand Lou's Loofahs, which is my loofah, primarily D2C subscription company that I completely made up and is not true, but will be good for purposes of this exercise. The stories are true, it's just spread across multiple brands more than anything. But these are going to talk about some process and results of using this performance data to improve the return on ad spend. A quick caveat, and what we'll see this is like us and our partner sales data partnerships with retailers, like no one in this space can yet tell you what your ROAS is. I'm very confident we can talk about improving ROAS because we know click-through rate. And if your click-through rate goes from 1% to 5%, that many more people are going to retailers, that many more people are getting awareness, and there's that halo effect of click-throughs to eventual purchases. But we don't know exactly what that ROAS is. And so that's I think an important distinction, especially different than D2C where you've got insight into everything, and even Amazon. It's this, you got to use directional data. Political polling is the analogy we use of you get a sample size of like deterministic data that you then extrapolate for like what's working and what's not. But let's put it into action. 4 steps. First step, understand shopper behavior, as we've talked about. What are they doing? Platforms, all this thing, setting up a UTM to track it. Developing and testing hypotheses, reallocating budget, as a result, relaunching, and then making in-campaign decisions. And this is just a constant iterative process that we're doing, right? We're testing, we're learning, we're allocating budget, we're getting more data mid-campaign. Up until the campaign ends, we're tweaking, we're done, killing stuff that doesn't work, boosting stuff that does. So the Louis Loofahs team, LLT, we had a UTM structure, we appended it. The 3 things that were most important across all of the media were like, what audiences were we using that were most effective for down funnel results? We believe if you're able to improve the audience, that's what's going to kind of exponentially increase. A small improvement in audience is going to exponentially increase, or disproportionately, increase your effectiveness of your media. So refining that audience was important for this brand. 2, just general, even for the sales story, general info, which products and retailers are being selected. And then finally, which channel, ad platform channel, broadly, social display, email, influencer, link tree, customer success response, whatever it is, drove the best results. Results here defined as click-through rate. And so some sample UTMs that were used, UTM source equals social. So, again, it's across social and display campaigns. And so we're able to pull out just the social results or pull out the social results and compare them to the display results. Medium equals brand.com audience. So we wanted to test the audiences. We could have brand.com audience, or this brand, they had, and we're retargeting 3 main groups. One was brand.com audience to retarget, Pear audience, or let's say retail ecom audience, and a purchase audience. You can figure out which audience is performing better or not. This one was the brand.com audience. We had a influencer campaign, and so we wanted to see how Justin Bieber performed against everyone else, based on click-through rates. Now we can make that shoppable experience. We can see where they're going and why. And then finally, customer service. So customer service was empowered with this link. So often we see in the comments, like, where is this located? And let's check out our store locator. Now our store locator is shoppable. We append this UTM to the end when we send it over. So, storelocator.com/UTM source equals customer service. I butchered that, but that's okay. And now we can start seeing from a customer service response, which retailers are getting selected most often, which geos is it happening, and which products and you can start empowering that team a little bit just with the shoppability of UTM behind it. So we got it all set up. We're testing a hypothesis, and this brand had multiple, but we'll focus on one. And then this reallocation of budget prior to main launch, where the hypothesis was Meta would perform better than TikTok in New York, but TikTok would be better in California. I think probably makes good sense given TikTok's density in California. So they took 10% of the budget and they tested that. Apples to apples, 5% TikTok, Meta New York, 5% TikTok, Meta California, see what performs better. And based on UTMs and the data, they saw it was right. TikTok in California performed better than Meta in California, and Meta in New York performed better than TikTok in New York. So they took the remaining of the 90% of the budget. It wasn't 100%, but they had a more disproportionate split of, I forget it, what exactly, 60, 70% went to Meta in New York. There was still some for TikTok because it's not unimportant, but and then same thing for TikTok in the reverse. And relative to that initial test, those two campaigns each performed way better. And so that's what we mean by improving ROAS, is we're able to compare it against the control, see what's working and what's not. And while this is happening, multiple tests are happening. We're just getting other data that we didn't even have this hypothesis for to reallocate budget, but we can still do that same kind of process, which is campaigns running, the brand. We were also tracking not only Meta versus TikTok, but within Meta, Instagram and Facebook. How was that performing? Instagram blowing Facebook out of the water. We think because it was more kind of a mobile-based purchasing experience. And so just reallocated the budget there. It was halfway through. It wasn't a hypothesis they tested, but hey, let's put more towards Instagram. And they saw great improvement prior to making that change. So just giving the tools to empower the team to improve ROAS with decision making. And then finally, with audiences, again, we talked about it. It's a super potent audience. It's not going to replace, the purchase trade desk audience, but it will supplement. This was a fantastic case study. They 7x their click-through rate, so that retailer click-through rate or retailer visit rate, just by reallocating budget towards the audiences through proper tracking. This was the one. Brand.com was retargeting was getting 1% versus ours was 20%. Even a trade desk audience, we were performing 5x better. So it's the same model, right? Reallocating budget. This was over a period of multiple months. I think we had hundreds of thousands of clicks go through, and each month more budget went towards that Pear audience, and that overall campaign click-through rate started to increase. Pear never replaced everything, but it just became a bigger proportion to get the results that we wanted. And you would have these audiences too. I say the Pear audience because this is, our case studies, but you would have your own audience of whoever clicked a Walmart button from a store locator, for example, and you can combine whoever clicked a Walmart and a Target and a Kroger and an Instacart. Final thing, and then I'll open up to questions. And if there aren't any, I could ramble for another 10 minutes. But a case study around optimized campaigns. This is optimized campaigns again. When you tell Facebook, hey, I'm only going to pay you when people click that retailer button. And Facebook just says like, we're going to do a much better job of serving the ad to people that have a propensity to click that button based on what we know about everyone, which is everything. And so Louis Lufa's team, or this brand, in reality, they created a campaign in Meta. They had important zips that were important to key retailers, and so they geo-targeted the campaign within Meta. The campaign was consideration-based, so mid-funnel, and they clicked optimize on retailer click. We gave them the landing page destination for that. Everything else was apples to apples. Even the copy, the creative, it was all served on Meta. Everything was the same except for this optimized budget, and it was almost 10x. It was 9x better click-through rate just by clicking that. And that's all you do is click one other button, one button over the other, and you just saw a 10x improvement. And when it matters, right? In addition to balancing retail versus D2C, there's an important balance of retail versus, awareness versus consideration that you have to balance as well. But for this one, automatic improvement overnight. Okay. This is our bonus content. I'll see if there's questions from anyone. If
Yeah, I
not,
think Louis, thanks so much for walking through all this. I think there's a lot here. If anyone has questions or thoughts or something they didn't quite understand, drop that into the chat and we can definitely ask that. If there's a more complicated question and you want to come up and ask that to Louis directly, just type in I have a question into the chat and I'll invite you up to come on video to chat as well. One question that I got in here is just around like when is this right for my brand, right? So if it's harder to track some of the return on the ad spend, when should I be thinking about doing campaigns like this, or where should I start?
It's tough for me without, with my background to say like, this is when it matters or when it doesn't. I can speak to like some of the decision-making criteria around it. When do we work with folks? Like, we just have kind of a lot more bells and whistles on top of this core premise. that's, 20, 30, 40 million in revenue probably. Could be earlier if you have a higher retailer, reliance. And I think that's probably the first criteria. It's like to what extent do you rely on retail? If you've got a really good D2C business and you want to keep that going and you've got room to run and your customer acquisition cost isn't going through the roof and you've got, channels and like there's opportunity there, keep doing it, right? Maybe you want to do some small pieces, a Walmart Target thing on just your store locator, make that shoppable, but maybe you don't want to run media towards retail yet. But, if you're Belgian boys, one of our favorite clients, they're a lot of frozen, trying to get into breakfast frozen foods. Like you need retail for a lot of that. And so when you run media, retail comes more top of mind. And then this becomes a bigger part of the conversation and creating landing pages and what a design looks like. And where do you add the shoppability on a PDP? Is it, we work with brands that do both. And sometimes they lead with D2C as the option, and you behind a tab is the retailer shoppability. Sometimes you lead with retail, and the D2C is behind hidden behind the click. And so the other piece is how much media are you running? We'll also work with a bunch of folks just on a store locator that are ready to run media, and that's totally good. And just build the shoppability, build the audience, start to learn some data. As you grow, typically media becomes like a bigger part of your strategy, in which case investing more makes sense. So I think it always makes sense. It just might make sense to do just a little bit, right? Like hyperlinked pixeled UTMs on just a store locator or just your customer success team, or like, one influencer campaign out of 10 is shoppable to retail, for some of the reasons that we talked about, or like just a trial incentive, or like it can be like pretty minimal. But to me, it's inevitable that retail needs to be part of the e-commerce strategy. And you could say it's a small part, but it needs to be thought about and like identified as a small part.
Awesome. Love that. And then Caleb has a question. Is there a way to integrate promotional coupons for retail to track store sale conversions?
There is. This is getting a little bit into like you might need a vendor help for this on either side, right? The coupon side or the shoppability side. We've done some stuff with like Fetch and Ibotta. Aisle is one of my favorite rebate solutions, and we've got like we can do an integration with them to add shoppability to it. You could also, hard code buy at Walmart. If you've got a Walmart coupon running with quotient or whatever, you could just add text, right? And take the text down, but say, buy one, get one free at Walmart until May 29th, or, what have you, just to raise that awareness there. I get super excited when it becomes that next level of integration. It's actually this good segue. Like my ideal campaign is this first one where you're sending a bunch of, let's say, programmatic just to get volume quick to a store locator. You retarget anyone who clicks through your store locator, because that's a super high intent audience, right? I went to your page, I clicked the map, I clicked the product, I clicked the retailer, and I clicked add to cart to bridge over. Super high intent. Retarget them with a coupon and push for trial. Anyone who engages with that, or better yet, makes a purchase. Now we retarget them with a shoppable ad.
Listen to a podcast, fine by me.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah. So there's a lot of ways to integrate, and it can get like pretty sophisticated. I think, just awareness that coupons exist is something that can like be pretty easily ingrained too.
Yeah, and one thing that I've seen a lot as well as or recommend is have a very specific goal in mind before you're starting to invest in some of the paid campaigns, right? So knowing that like you're launching in a new retailer, you're trying to drive that initial velocity to that retailer. Here are some things that you could do to do that, right? When you're talking on social about like, hey, we just launched in Kroger stores or launched in Target, making sure your store locator is up to date, because sometimes those are only like regional launches instead of national launches. So you want to make sure that people know exactly where you can actually buy. And then from that, you're tracking kind of how many people are interested in Target, and then you can run a promotion to those people who actually clicked on that first link as well, because those are the most interested in doing so. And then being able to track the redemptions and things from there. But the cost for these things can quickly go out of hand if you don't know what you're looking for and have a specific goal in mind of what you're starting with. And so always kind of keep that in mind and how long you want to run those for. Um, so that you can see what impact it is. And a lot of the retailers have some data that they provide in terms of ordering, and you won't always know exactly where those sales are coming from. But if you're doing a pretty sizable campaign and a digital campaign and then see ordering and case ordering starting to go up, then that can be an indication that it's working. If things are staying completely flat, then that's an indication that like it's not really making much of an impact, right?
One thing you said that was great and broad. One thing that I'm a hammer looking for nails, but I found a nail in was kind of like the interaction of who to serve it to, right? Who to serve the coupon to can be pretty important. And as you build out audiences of your retail e-com shoppers, like that could be a good place to start. Of you've got this asset of people who are engaging with the store locator or button or retail in some way. You've got a coupon for retail, like let's give it to them first and see how it works. And you can start small scale and build out to learn the things and like kind of develop that strategy that you need.
Awesome. Love that. Louis, if people are interested in learning more from you or finding out more about Pear Commerce, how can they get in touch?
Shoot, I guess I should have had a slide with like my email on it or something like that. Just my first name. It looks like Louis, Louis at pearcommerce.com, or just go to pearcommerce.com and fill out an inbound or, raise the Pear Commerce bat signal and we'll be there and within 48 hours. Yeah, we're around. Let us know. Happy to talk. We obviously have a bunch of solutions on this, but our overall premise is the more people that are thinking about retail e-com strategy, the better for the industry. And we're just happy to kind of help support that mission, even without selling anything. So open to conversations always.
Perfect. Thanks for being so generous, Louis. And if you missed this as well, make sure you search the webinars on foodbevy.com to find past episodes with Louis, and then also our Startup to Scale podcast as well. Louis, thanks so much for being on today, and looking forward to seeing more brands implementing shoppability for their companies.
Thank you, Jordan. Appreciate you for having me on again.